Most people think walking away requires an explanation. They are wrong. The strongest exits in this life are the ones nobody understood. You keep writing the last message in your head. You keep rehearsing the final speech. You keep waiting for the right moment to make them finally see you. You keep imagining the conversation where they break down and admit what they did. That conversation will never come. And every day you wait for it, you postpone your own life. Hear this clearly. Explanation is not closure. Explanation is the leash. Every word you offer to a person who broke you is a rope they use to pull you back into the room you were trying to leave. The truly powerful do not announce their departure. They do not write the letter. They do not deliver the speech. They simply become unreachable in spirit long before their body is gone. And by the time the other person notices, there is nothing left to negotiate. In this speech, you will learn the quiet power of walking away without explanation. You will learn why silence is the most respected weapon in the world. You will learn what your nervous system does when you stop chasing closure. You will learn how to become a person whose absence speaks louder than any sentence they could have read. But be careful. Once you understand this, you cannot go back. You will lose people you once thought were permanent. You will end relationships that should have ended years ago. You will sit inside a quiet that feels foreign at first, because your whole life was built on the noise of explaining yourself. That quiet is not loss. That quiet is the sound of your power finally returning. The first thing you must understand is that explanation assumes the other person is open to understanding. They are not. If they were, you would not be here. You would not be writing this speech in your head at 3 a.m. You would not be losing sleep imagining how to phrase your final words. People who hurt you do not lack information. They lack honesty. You can hand them 1,000 sentences and they will twist 900 of them. You can be perfectly clear and they will pretend you were unclear. You can speak in plain language and they will rewrite the meaning the moment you leave the room. This is not a communication problem. This is a character problem. And you cannot fix a character problem with better wording. So stop refining the speech. Stop perfecting the message. Stop searching for the sentence that will finally make them understand. There is no such sentence. There has never been one. People hear only what protects their version of themselves and nothing else. The moment you accept this, your entire relationship to walking away changes. You stop trying to leave through the front door of their understanding. You stop knocking. You stop waiting for them to open it. You simply become a person who is no longer in the house. That is the silent exit. That is the only exit that actually works. Now hear this carefully. There is a difference between running away and walking away. The world confuses them on purpose because the world wants you to stay exactly where you are bleeding. Running is reaction. Walking is decision. Running is loud. Walking is quiet. Running carries fear in the chest. Walking carries finality in the spine. The runner leaves but keeps checking behind him. The walker leaves and does not turn his head. The runner explains, apologizes, defends himself in his own mind as he goes. The walker has nothing to say because the decision was made long before the body moved. You must become a walker. Not because the relationship deserves dignity. Sometimes it does not. You must become a walker because you deserve dignity. Because every word you spend explaining a leaving is a tax on the new life you are trying to build. Imagine a man who leaves a burning house and stops at the door to explain to the fire why fire is dangerous. That is what you are doing every time you draft the long message. Volk, do not narrate the fire. Now understand who the silent walker has always been. He is not new. He has been walking through history for a long time. Quietly, he is the friend who one day stopped responding and was never seen in that circle again. The colleague who left without a farewell speech, without a complaint, without a single dramatic post. The lover who closed the door so gently that the other person did not even know it was closing until months later when the silence had already become its own country. Every powerful person you have ever heard of had a season of silent walking. Not running, not hiding, walking. They removed themselves from rooms they had outgrown without holding a press conference about it. They ended friendships that no longer matched their direction without writing the long, sad message. They left versions of themselves behind without explaining the upgrade to anyone who preferred the old version. This is the pattern. This is how transformation actually works in the real world. Not loudly, not publicly, not with a speech, but with a quiet day on which a single decision is made and then carried out slowly, without ceremony, until the new life is so far from the old one that the old one cannot reach across the distance anymore. You can join this lineage. You only need to stop explaining your exits. The next truth is one most people refuse to accept. Silence is the cleanest blade you will ever use. Words give them something to attack. Silence gives them something to fear. Words can be twisted. Silence cannot. Words can be misquoted, repeated, taken out of context, shown to other people as proof of your cruelty. Silence has no edges to grip. Silence cannot be misquoted because silence said nothing. When you walk away with words, the relationship continues inside their version of the story. When you walk away without words, the relationship ends inside their imagination, and the imagination is always crueler to them than any truth you could have spoken. Understand this. The closure they invent in their own head is sharper than any closure you could ever write for them. Because in the silence, they are forced to ask themselves the question you would have answered. They will ask, what did I do? They will ask, who did I become? They will ask, how did I lose this person without even noticing? And every answer they construct will haunt them more than any sentence you could have delivered. You did not need to say a word. You let the silence do the teaching. But this kind of walking away will cost you something. It will cost you the satisfaction of the final speech. It will cost you the imagined moment where they finally understand. It will cost you the dramatic ending your mind has been writing for months. And you must be willing to pay that price. Because here is what most people miss. The desire to deliver the final speech is not justice. It is ego. It is the last attempt of the wounded self to be witnessed by the person who heard it. It is one more bid for their attention dressed up as a goodbye. Do not give them that. They have had enough of your attention. Your attention was the gift they wasted. Now your attention belongs to your own life. Hear this. The most extraordinary thing about walking away in silence is not what it does to them. It is what it does to you. The moment you stop drafting the explanation, something inside your nervous system begins to repair itself. The constant rehearsal stops. The pressure in your chest begins to lift. The looping conversations in your head go quiet. The energy you were spending on the imagined fight returns to your hands, your work, your sleep, your face. You begin to remember what it feels like to think about something other than them. You begin to laugh again, in small ways, without warning. You begin to walk through a normal day without the gravity of unfinished words pulling on your stomach. This is what closure actually is. Closure is not a conversation. Closure is the moment your body stops waiting for the other person to fix something inside you. And that moment cannot be given to you. It can only be claimed. Now listen carefully, because most people do not realize this. Your body has been keeping the receipts. Every explanation you owed and never gave, your body remembers. Every conversation you replayed at midnight, your body felt. Every time you swallowed your truth to keep the peace, your body recorded the cost. The tightness in your jaw is a sentence you never finished. The weight in your shoulders is the weight of arguments you were too tired to start. The shallow breath in your chest is the air you have been holding back so they would stay comfortable. This is not poetic, this is real. And the moment you decide to walk away without explanation, your body begins to forgive you for all the years you used it as a storage room for words that should have left long ago. You will sleep deeper. You will eat slower. You will breathe lower. You will feel a strange softness in places you forgot were tight. That softness is not weakness. That softness is the return of the self that was hidden under all that explaining. You did not just leave a relationship. You returned the body to its owner. Now look honestly at who has been pulling explanations out of you for years. There are certain people in your life who have never deserved a goodbye. These are not necessarily evil people. Some are simply small, some are simply lost. But all of them share one trait. They use your need to be understood as a hook. They know that you cannot stand being misrepresented. They know that you will return to the conversation as long as the conversation feels unresolved. They know that your honesty makes you vulnerable to being kept around against your will. So they leave the conversation half open on purpose. They drop a small confusion and wait for you to chase it. They misunderstand you on purpose, so you will explain yourself again. They twist your words slightly, so you will come back to correct them. This is a trap, and the only way to escape the trap is to refuse to be its mouse. Let them misunderstand. Let them invent. Let them tell the wrong version of the story to anyone who will listen. The people who matter will not believe it. The people who believe it never mattered, and the energy you would have spent defending yourself becomes the energy that builds the next chapter of your life. This is the hardest part. Walking away is not the difficult thing. Staying gone is the difficult thing. Anyone can leave once. Anyone can slam a door. Anyone can write the message and block the number for a weekend. The discipline is not in the exit. The discipline is in the silence that follows the exit. Because the body will miss the chaos. The mind will romanticize the past. The nervous system will mistake the calm for emptiness and search for a reason to break it. You will reach for the phone. You will rehearse the message that explains why you left. You will tell yourself it would be polite to give them one final word. Do not. If they wanted clarity, they had years to ask for it kindly. If they wanted understanding, they had 1,000 quiet moments to offer it. If they wanted you, they had every chance long before you began walking. The decision was made for you long before you made it. You are only catching up. Hold the silence. Hold it through the urge. Hold it through the loneliness. Hold it through the lying voice that tells you they have changed. Because every time you hold the silence, your identity hardens. You become someone who does not return. You become someone whose word, even unspoken, is final. You become someone other people can sense from across a room, and that quiet finality is what the world begins to call presence. There is a moment in this process that almost no one warns you about. You will begin to miss the version of yourself that explained everything. It feels safer. It feels familiar. It feels generous. That old self was always reaching, always softening, always making sure no one was left behind in their understanding of you. And there was something noble in him, in a way. He believed if he could only find the right words, no one would ever feel wronged by him. But that nobility was also his prison, because the right words never existed. The right audience never existed. And the more he explained, the smaller his life became, until his entire identity was a long apology he never finished writing. You have to let that man go, not with cruelty, with gratitude. He kept you alive through years you should not have survived, but he cannot walk where you are going. The next version of your life is built in silence, and he was built for negotiation. Thank him, bury him, walk. Now understand this about the people you leave behind. They will project on you. They will tell stories about you that you would not recognize. They will make you the villain in versions of events that never happened. They will say you were cold. They will say you were ungrateful. They will say you changed. Let them. Every projection is information. Every story they tell about you reveals who they always were, not who you are, who they are. The man who calls you cold is the man who confused warmth with constant availability. The woman who calls you cruel is the one who confused boundaries with abandonment. The friend who calls you arrogant is the friend who was never comfortable when you stopped making yourself small. You do not have to correct any of them. The correction would only feed the story. Walk, keep walking. The truth has slow legs, but it never gets lost. The truth always arrives. Sometimes years later, sometimes never to the people who slandered you, but always to the people who actually matter. Your job is not to deliver the truth. Your job is to live in a way that becomes the truth on its own. Understand the mathematics of silence. Every word you do not waste is a coin that stays in your account. Every argument you refuse to enter is an hour returned to your life. Every explanation you decline to give is a piece of your mind that stays yours. Most people are poor not because they earn little, but because they spend their inner wealth on the wrong audiences. They spend hours defending themselves to people who will never vote for them. They spend years justifying their choices to relatives who never understood them. They spend whole decades performing for crowds that would forget them in a single weekend if they died. This is not living. This is bleeding in public. The silent walker stops bleeding. The silent walker invests the same energy into work, into rest, into the people who actually know him by his real name. And after 1 year of this discipline, his life looks completely different. Not because his circumstances changed, because the energy that used to leak through every conversation now stays inside him and compounds. Silence is not absence. Silence is accumulation. You are not becoming less when you stop explaining yourself. You are becoming dense. You are becoming heavy in the only way that matters. Heavy with peace, heavy with focus, heavy with the kind of presence that does not need to announce itself in any room it enters. Now the deeper layer, walking away in silence is not coldness. It is reverence. You are too sacred to argue. You are too rare to repeat yourself. You are too far along in your becoming to return to a conversation that should have ended a year ago. The cold person leaves because they no longer care. The reverent person leaves because they finally do. They care about the time they have left. They care about the mind they are building. They care about the people who deserve their presence. They care about the version of themselves that is waiting on the other side of this exit. So the silence is not punishment. The silence is protection of you mostly, but also of them, because the speech you would have given would not have softened anything. It would only have given them new wounds to weaponize against the next person who tries to love them. You spared them the speech. You spared yourself the spectacle. You let the silence do what 1,000 careful words could not. Now realize what you are becoming. The silent walker becomes a different kind of person. Not colder, not crueler, not distant, simply harder to access. And in a world where almost everyone is too available, harder to access is the rarest form of dignity. You stop responding to messages within seconds. You stop answering accusations the moment they arrive. You stop defending yourself to crowds you would not invite into your home. You begin to move slower. You begin to choose your words like a man counting coins. You begin to leave rooms without announcing your departure, and you begin to enter rooms without performing your arrival. People will say, you have changed. You have stopped being a public servant of other people's curiosity. You have stopped being an unpaid translator of your own life. You have stopped being the man who shows up to explain himself the moment anyone misunderstands him on purpose. And in that change, something quiet and severe begins to grow inside you. It is not arrogance. Arrogance still needs the audience. What grows inside you needs nothing. It is the still center of a person who has finally stopped negotiating with the world about whether he is allowed to exist on his own terms. And now hear the final truth. One day, maybe in a month, maybe in a year, maybe never, the person you walked away from will reach for you again. They will not arrive with the apology you imagined. They will arrive with a small message, a casual one, a pretend friendly one. How have you been? I was thinking about you. I saw something that reminded me of you. This is the test. This is the moment that decides whether you walked away or only paused. Because the message is not friendship. The message is a probe. They are checking if the door is still cracked. They are checking if your silence had limits. They are checking if you are the same person who used to explain himself the moment a familiar voice called. You are not that person anymore. You are the one who walked. You are the one who held the silence. You are the one whose life began the day you stopped narrating your exits. Do not answer the probe. Or if you answer in a way that delivers nothing. The probe is fed by your willingness to explain again. Starve it. And in the starving, the door closes for the last time, not by your hand, but by their slow understanding that the version of you they could pull back no longer lives in this body. So begin today. Begin with the smallest exit. The conversation that drains you, leave it without justifying. The group chat that exhausts you, leave it without announcing. The relationship that has been over for months, let it close without ceremony. The friend who treats your time as a public resource, become unavailable without notice. The family member who weaponizes your patience, return only the silence they earn. You owe the world your honesty. You do not owe the world your explanation. There is a difference between the two, and the difference is your freedom. A man who explains every exit lives by permission. A man who walks in silence lives by his own law. You were never meant to live by permission. You were meant to live by your own law. So walk into the quiet, walk into the version of yourself that does not require witnesses. Walk into the discipline of leaving people exactly where you found them in the past. And one day, when the noise of all the people you used to explain yourself to has finally faded, you will look around and notice something strange. The life you wanted was always on the other side of the explanation you refused to give. The peace you were begging for was waiting inside the silence you finally kept. The respect you tried to earn through words arrived the moment you stopped using them. This is the quiet power of walking away without explanation. It does not feel powerful at first. It feels lonely. It feels uncertain. It feels like you are losing something. But you are not losing. You are returning. You are returning to your time, to your mind, to your breath, to your future, to the self that existed before you began performing your worth for people who were never watching closely enough to see it. Hear this final instruction. From this day on, your departures belong to you. Not to the people who feel entitled to a reason. Not to the audience that expects a final scene. Not to the part of yourself that still believes peace must be negotiated. You walk when you decide to walk. You stay gone when you decide to stay gone. You answer when the answer is yours to give, and you hold the silence when the silence is more honest than any sentence could be. This is not coldness. This is sovereignty. The man who must explain every leaving has not yet become a man. The man who walks in silence has stopped asking the world for permission to be himself. You do not need to be loud to be powerful. You do not need to be cruel to be free. You do not need to deliver a speech to close a chapter. You only need to walk. And to keep walking, and to let the silence do what your words could never have done. So hold the silence, walk the path, and let your absence become the only sentence they will ever truly understand.